Hi, this is Andrew Reinhard from Bolchazy-Carducci Publishers. I'm the director of eLearning. And with me today I've got Briand Hardison, who did the illustrations both for the cover and inside the book for the Follow Your Fate series. Hello, Briand.
Hello, how's it going?
Thanks for joining me on this call today and taking out part of your Saturday to talk to me.
No problem.
As far as the Follow Your Fate series goes, I was wondering what drew you to the project of illustrating and doing the cover art for these three epics from Homer and Virgil.
As you know, it kind of started off by I first got the opportunity to work with Bolchazy after winning the APA Comics contest, and from there we worked together on the mythology webcomics. And that's how we got the connection. And when you told me it was going to be books about Homer and Virgil, the Odyssey, and Iliad, it was exciting. Just the idea of being able to take those famous images and put pictures to them, and it was kind of like a matter of a little bit of self curiosity. It was a chance to explore some of those classic ideas and maybe put my own little spin on them. So.
I know that you've done a lot of contemporary comic work, and I guess that was my follow-up question is, looking at these ancient stories, you're writing, from a contemporary perspective. What was it like to make the switch from doing something that's more modern to illustrating these ancient tales?
Well, as an illustrator, I've kind of been doing a lot of things in sort of my young career. And so it wasn't too hard to jump from what I was doing to doing the classic tales, because what I'm doing, regular freelance stuff is, kids' books, T-shirts. One person wants an animal drawing, and then the next second I'm drawing a robot, and then I'm drawing a platypus fighting somebody. So, as far as just being able to make the jump, I'm like, okay, as long as it's cool, I can do it. Even still, in terms of comics in general, most comics we have, some people would argue, are kind of inspired by those ancient stories. So in terms of the subject matter, it's not that much of a jump. You kind of, like, even now you're seeing, Thor and stuff, they're having their own movies, and those are ancient stories too. And so you just you're able to make that jump pretty quickly, I think. Between contemporary stuff and the classic stuff, if you just follow the story.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, having this stuff, it's all dependent on the story, and especially with the Iliad, the Odyssey, and the Aeneid, these are just kind of classic adventures, and you see the themes come up in modern storytelling too. I was curious as to how familiar you were actually with these epics prior to starting the project for illustrating the books.
My general knowledge just came from, high school, middle school, that stuff. That was my introduction to them. On my own time, I always go on little, Google searches for, monsters and stuff like that, and go to like a Wikipedia page for the parts of the story and all that. And that was before we got to this project. But certainly as we started working on these books, it gave me an opportunity to kind of go back to some of those sources and, dig in a little deeper and, read some things I hadn't noticed before, or, just see some details I couldn't quite remember from, school. And so, unlike some of the people working like, Ed, of course, I wasn't as super versed, but I was really curious and, took a lot of time to kind of learn some new things looking into the stories, so.
Would you say that was kind of the hardest part about creating the pictures for the books, or what seemed to be the most challenging thing to you as an illustrator coming to the story?
The research was actually kind of fun. I guess part of the challenge, one of the most fun things, and also one of the most challenging, was conceptualizing the characters. I'd take a little time to sketch each of the characters and kind of figure out how I wanted them to look, as I would get to the page drawings. And that would kind of take a little time because I was looking at, trying to draw some inspiration from the ancient artwork and, and other, paintings that people had made and look at how they did the character. And then I'd say, okay, what do I want to do? And so that's kind of when I would spend some time thinking, okay, well, do I want Achilles to, have long hair, short hair, do this or that? How do I want him to look here? And, stuff like that. That would be kind of a challenge. It would take some time, but that was fun. I'd say probably one of the most challenging parts that was just straight up challenging was really just trying to think about what was going to happen in each of the pictures, because we had, not too many pictures to work with, and the books themselves are kind of small and, oriented vertically. And it's kind of tricky when you're trying to orient that space to work with a scene, because in comics, a lot of scenes that aren't like close-ups tend to be horizontal, And I've always admired a lot of book illustrators who can figure out how to use that more vertical orientation in clever ways. So I was trying to work my head around that. And then also the drawings being black and white, it was kind of a challenge thinking, okay, how do I make sure that this looks dramatic but can also be read, especially at the size it was going to be printed.
Right.
And again, since we had the small number of pictures, it was important to think about, okay, I need to make sure the person can see, what this guy looks like. I can't just have him like shot from the back in every picture.
Sure.
So that was kind of tricky.
Right. Now with the covers, how those were actually created. I mean, do you find yourself doing like freehand drawings and sketching, or did you do, the final product was it drawn and scanned, or was it painted on the computer?
Most of the images were drawn by hand from the beginning. The black and white images were mostly done by hand. I would only use the computer to do like maybe small touch-ups here and there and just kind of clean up a little bit. But the cover drawings, I would draw those by hand, and as you saw, we'd start with a sketch, and then we'd go from that into what I would do is the finish, and I would use Photoshop or sometimes Illustrator a little bit, the Adobe programs to help me do the coloration and painting. And it's nice to work on the computer. It has its challenges too. But the one thing that's nice about it is, of course, one, you get a nice, high-resolution picture when you're finished, as long as you worked on it at high resolution, so that can go straight to print. And you also can, of course, do, undo and move stuff around when you want to. So that was a good amount of flexibility. I guess I tried to approach for the covers, a couple different things. Like the first cover, I tried to do like more of a painter style, and the second one, I kind of went a little more comic booky, and then I tried to go for like an even ground with the third cover. So, I just took a little bit of an opportunity to explore some stuff with those covers. So it was fun.
With what you draw and what you drew for the Follow Your Fates books, I was wondering if you drew any inspiration from other comic book artists, who you're a fan of. I was kind of curious as to see who your favorites are, and do they inform your art? Did they help inform you for what you were doing for the project for us?
Yeah, black and white art, I've always admired it, and so every time I'm about to do something with any amount of ink, I always like to look at, some of my favorite comics artists, to kind of see what they did. And I know we talked, I guess, or you mentioned before, Frank Miller, and, I drew some inspiration from him because of his, really clever use of black and white, especially in the Sin City comics.
Right.
But then, I have some other artists that I like Jeff Smith, who did Bone, and I guess some other guys like Jason Pearson and Brian Stelfreeze, who I've actually met Brian Stelfreeze, and he's pretty cool. And, just people like that who are just, oh, man, there are just so many really skilled inkers out there, every time I'm doing anything with the pen, I'm like, oh, man. Yeah, because I've seen their stuff in person, and it's so clean, and I always try and go to make it a little bit better. And I think I'm glad that I feel by the last book, the AENEAS, that I actually, got my feeling of the ink a little bit better than I had when I started. So,
Excellent. No, we've certainly been appreciative of the work that you've done, and we keep getting a lot of feedback, and it's been interesting because people are really into the text and into the story and how it's presented and everything, but they're always just amazed by the art that's inside the book, and they love the covers. What's your next big project, personally, and would you ever consider coming back to the Mediterranean and working with some other stories there?
Oh, of course I'd love to come back. Whenever the opportunity presents itself, I'd like to be ready for it. I've been doing freelance stuff, so a lot of my work has been just kind of middle ground. What have I done lately? I finished some graphics for an iPhone game recently that's not released yet. I've done a couple of commissions. Some a friend of a friend needed some little comic pages done for his wedding, and I'm working on a kid's book right now, and stuff like that. That's kind of what I'm working on right now. Unfortunately, I'd say recently only like 10% of my work has been comics work. A lot of my comic stuff has been independent. Although a book I worked on called Platypus versus Monkey just recently got print, and that's through Terminus Media, so that was a lot of fun. And hopefully I'll be doing some more comics, in the future, in the near future, because that's always fun. That's kind of where my heart is. But
Sure.
Everything's fun as long as you take it with the right attitude. Yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, much appreciated, Bolchazy-Carducci, and for all the work they give me, and for all the fun work too. It's been a lot of fun working on the book. So.
yeah, well, glad to hear it. It's been fun on this end as well. So, thanks for your time, and we'll look forward to talking to you in the future, and best of luck.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, thanks, Brian.